everybody, Brent Florica here, and welcome back to Sketchbook B. Today, super excited to try out a ROBO-UNICORN drawing. This is actually a gift for my daughter in honor of her birthday, and she's really into unicorns right now, so that's kind of what inspired this, and I thought I'd mix it up and combine this sort of ROBO-UNICORN idea. Thought it would be fun. I started off by doing a few concept sketches to try and kind of work out the pose, but I've been giving this a lot of thought, and so I went with the first one there because I thought it just would kind of fill the page the best and kind of turn out the way I kind of always pictured it in my head. I used this reference image because I was struggling to get the pose down, just to kind of get an idea of the proper shape and stuff of the horse, so I kind of used that as a guide, as you'll see here, and then built onto it with all of the robot aspects of it. Step 2, I begin to kind of layer in all of the robotic elements, build it onto the horse, start kind of erasing the lines underneath that I don't need, and refining the general shape of things and where all of the various components are going to be, starting to add in kind of little details like, you know, little bolts and different little notches and brackets, and where, you know, the propulsion system is going to be, and wiring, and all of these little details and stuff really help to sell it, and kind of the more detail you can add, the better, really. So without going like too far overboard, I tried to kind of add as much as I could to make it look sort of interesting and somewhat believable. So I figured it would kind of hover over the ground and then have some kind of propulsion out the back as well to push it forward. So that's kind of what I was going for there. And then, yeah, just started working on the saddle and whatever, because I kind of envisioned, you know, having a rider sitting on the horse or on the unicorn as well. Just working in some of the basic details and shading and kind of where the light source is going to be. I'm kind of picturing the light coming from top left, so that sort of dictates the shadows. And then, yeah, adding in sort of the little jets. I have something kind of interesting that I'm going to do for that you'll see in a little bit. But then, yeah, starting to work in the finishing details here. I'm using bubbles, I've decided, as the propulsion system. I thought my daughter would get a kick out of that, so bubble-powered ROBO-UNICORN. So this is an interesting one today. I'm having fun with it. Kind of putting in the sort of last refinements and stuff before starting on the actual character itself. Yeah, just putting in the finishing touches before moving on to the character itself. You know, just start by kind of roughing in a pose, and this took a little bit of refinement. I was kind of struggling with some of the limb positioning and whatnot, but, you know, I'm really trying to take my time more with these drawings and stuff and keep refining until I'm satisfied. You know, like I drew this hat and I was like, that's not how a hat would look, and so I went back and, you know, looked at more photo reference and stuff and got it to a place where I was much happier with it. Reworked the legs and put them in a better position that felt more natural and realistic, and I feel like that worked out really well also. Step 3 moves on to the inking stage, and this is, of course, where it really starts to come together. And I always love this stage because I love just that clean, crisp feel of black lines on the white. Just looks so it looks so cool to me. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this, just more or less tracing over the stuff underneath, but also thinking about line weights and the planes that are going to be more important than the other ones, and making sure that I kind of go a little bit thicker on sort of the edges that are supposed to be stronger. Actually, at the end of this too, after I do all of like the little detailing lines and whatnot, I go around the entire thing with a little bit of a thicker line because I just wanted this to pop out a bit more. I'm going to do a background for this one, so I wanted the main focus to kind of pop against the background and not get lost, so I thought that would be kind of an effective way to do that. If you're enjoying this so far, please do hit the like button. I really appreciate it. And please do consider subscribing to my channel. If you enjoy my stuff, if you find yourself watching my videos often, it really helps me out. It's no cost to you. The only thing that you need to do really is hit the button, and you can decide if you want to be notified all the time of when I post videos or not. And really, that's all there is to it, but it really helps me out. So please do consider hitting that big red subscribe button. It would mean a lot to me. All the detailing on the face and the hat and stuff I was really happy with. Just loved the way that turned out, and arriving at this stage of like the basically finished inks and stuff was super satisfying for me. I tried something out on this one actually called a color hold, and that's basically where you color the lines themselves from black to something else to suit your needs. So I wanted the bubbles to seem a little bit softer. Here you can see I'm putting in that border line work. I wanted the bubbles to feel a little bit softer and not be so strong. So I decided to actually color the bubbles, the line work on the bubbles, so that they would just kind of be a background thing. So I went with like a purple color initially, and then ultimately I layered in some other colors, some like blues and pinks and a little bit of like a teal color. And yeah, I was really happy with that, how that kind of made it work against the actual unicorn itself, popping that out. This stage is flatting. Because I'm working in Sketchbook Pro, it's a little bit trickier. You don't have layer masks, to my knowledge, in Sketchbook Pro, so I'm kind of taking a bit of a roundabout way of doing this, and next time I'm going to try to do this more with the lasso tool. I need to get a better handle on that, but I basically just painted all of this in purple and then locked the layer. There's a feature where you can lock the layer so you can only paint over top of stuff that has color on it already, so you can't basically go outside the lines. And so then on that layer, I started painting in all of the colors and stuff. Generally speaking, when you're doing flatting, it doesn't necessarily matter that you get the colors exactly right up front, because you can always change it later. However, I like to take this flatting stage as an opportunity to kind of work out my general color scheme. Obviously once you add like shade and shadow and stuff, and I generally try and put some like color variation into my shadows and things like that, just to give it a little bit more visual interest. But at the same time, doing this and getting the colors generally right gives you a pretty good idea of the overall sort of color scheme and feel of the piece before you get into any sort of heavy like shade and shadow detail coloring. So that's just kind of the way I like to do it. I find it works pretty well for me. So yeah, I was pretty happy with the general layout of colors and stuff that I was able to come up with on this one. Wanted it to feel very bright and fun. My daughter likes colors and stuff like that, so yeah, I really wanted it to feel like, just a really happy sort of vibe to it. Yep, there we go. Coloring in the bubbles, so that's that color hold thing that I was mentioning. Yeah, just kind of a cool effect, and I definitely want to experiment with that more in the future, especially when it comes to doing stuff that looks a little bit more realistic. Yeah, I need to do some more experimentation with that, I think. Finally, we're moving on to the final colors. So now I'm adding in some shadowing and, just some kind of basic stuff at first, but then I layer in bit by bit darker and darker colors. And then I also go back in afterwards and start adding some brighter colors for sort of highlight sections. Again, I had pictured sort of the light source coming from the top left, so kind of the bottom right side of things is going to be where all the shadows are cast. And yeah, I had fun with that. I didn't want to use just kind of like gray for shadows. I tried to create some sort of a little bit more interest by, like for example on the shirt there, the shirt itself is sort of a light pink color, but I did the shadows in more of like a purple and even into like a bit of a bluish purple too. Just the more variation, I just think it looks a little bit more interesting and, less kind of one-dimensional. This stage I always find the most enjoyable because it's really where, everything starts to come to life. I'm adding some glow effects on those, picture those being like lights, and working in the detail on the saddle there. And then once kind of the leather work is done, I went in and started doing the actual shading on the unicorn itself on the body. I experimented around with some different things for these sort of metal components, but ultimately I wasn't super happy with it, so I kind of reverted back to just some rim lighting on those areas and then just sort of a light shadow on the other side, and I feel like that worked a little bit better to make it look kind of smooth. I will go around and do some rim lighting as well on different areas of the unicorn, kind of the perimeter of it, just because it adds like that little extra punch that I really like the way that looks, and I just think it's a pretty effective way to create some visual interest. Yeah, here I'm adding in detailing on the bubbles, trying to make them look a little bit shiny, like a little bit of a light reflection sort of on each bubble. And adding in some other sort of base color like that teal and that purple, mixing it in to make it look a little bit more interesting. All that's left is to add a background. Thanks for joining me at Sketchbook B. Please like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. My full Sketchbook B playlist is up top, and see the rest of my Robo series down here at the bottom. Thanks a lot. See you next time.